Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to the first episode of the Impact of AI. This is a brand new podcast with myself and Gerjon, and we're gonna, look at what's going on in the world of AI. Just to give you a bit of background, so I work in end user computing, so specific part of IT where we look at all the various different layers of complexity that and make it simple for the end user. Why am I doing a podcast about AI? Well, we both gave a presentation last November.
Yes, November.
Yes, at the E2E virtualization conference in Rome, and it was the first time that such a conversation, a session about AI had taken place. So we were the first to do that. We talked afterwards over a beer, as you do, and then we talked about it a bit more, and we decided that we're really enjoying learning about AI, and the best way we wanted to do that was to do a podcast. So here we are. So, Gerjon, how about you? Bit of background about you?
Yeah, a bit of background. I come from the Netherlands, and I work at a company in the Netherlands focused around IT called Roberts, and I always, since the release of the Chatgpt, I became interested in AI and everything in between. So in my job, I'm more like cloud and workspace. So I do end-user computing and cloud, and I think AI is the missing linking pin between everything to make users work as smart as they can and as efficient as they can. And well, while we were chatting over a beer, we thought about the dreams about how AI would make our life easier and better. And that gave us the idea to do this, and it's really cool. And looking at how the world is evolving, it's a great time to start this adventure, because it's an adventure for the both of us, to see where it leads us and to see how AI is going to shape the world. And that's why we called it the Impact of AI Explored, because it's not, we're exploring with you, our listeners and our viewers, to see where this world is going and to give our honest opinion. We might not always be right, but it's just our opinion.
Exactly. And that's the whole point. We are not AI experts. We are simply learning. This is a journey for us, and as probably similar for our listeners. So as I said, our plan is we will have some discussion. We're going to have some guests as well. As we've both said, we work in the world of end user computing. We're going to try and get some guests from outside of end user computing, from within, people who we think are really interesting, we want to talk to and learn more about AI, because that is the whole point of this exercise. We want to learn about more about AI. We want to share what we learn with everyone. So let's move on. Obviously, as we've said, there's been so much going on in AI. It's ridiculous since, as Gerjon said, the launch of ChatGPT, things have really taken off. And there's been so much stuff. We've even had a little AI soap opera, for want of a better word. if you think about, if you think back to a couple of weeks in December, I think Sam Altman was the CEO of OpenAI. Then he wasn't the CEO. Then he was going to Microsoft, and then he ended up back as the CEO of OpenAI. So AI has everything that you could possibly hope for. So I think it's. So there's just been so much going on. So sticking with OpenAI, one of the things I was reading the other day was that they have signed an agreement with the state of Pennsylvania to implement OpenAI Enterprise for the state of Pennsylvania. And I was like, wow, I think this is the first government organization that is looking to do a full implementation of OpenAI. Obviously, we can talk about the implications of such a move, if you think about it, because there's privacy, all of that kind of stuff. It's a big move, and I was kind of taken aback, to be honest. And what's your view on that one?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a bold move, even to be a municipality, to be or a state, and to say, okay, we need this and we want this done this way. I don't know how the internal IT might look like, but if you're gonna connect something like a large language model bot to your internal IT and learn them your internal IT stuff, so what the user, your application, your data, etc. It's going to be very interesting to see how they integrate all that and all these security implications it might have, because when we're looking at stuff that we are doing at customers, the first thing we talk about is how we're going to keep this secure, how we're going to keep everybody from not seeing information they're not allowed to or querying information they're not allowed to. So doing that on something as big as a state, you have to have a real big grasp on how your IT landscape is looking. So that's it's a bold move. It's a cool move, but a bold move.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's definitely a bold move, and it will be one I want to kind of follow and hear a bit more on. So I saw something else on. Obviously, there's just been so much going on. Did you have any other kind of things that have caught your interest in the last week or so?
A lot have to. There's a lot, and once we started saying, okay, we got to record a podcast. It's now Thursday. This Thursday, then you're gonna look on Google or the news sites and to look about some other things that are piquing your interest. And one of the cool things that I found is that there is some developers in. I have to look it up. They have created Nightshade, and what Nightshade does, it obscures images for use in, for example, DALL-E or any other visualization AI tooling. So the Nightshade tool just it cripples the data that the AI tool bot gets. So the one who drew the image or made the movie is his intellectual property is more secured, but it will cripple the image and it will cripple the data the AI has to use that the AI uses to create images. So by protecting their intellectual property, which I can imagine they want to do, they are crippling the use of AI. So it's really, I found it scary but interesting to see that there is technology available to block AI from using images.
Yeah, now that is an interesting one, because obviously there's been a lot going on. If OpenAI have been sued by the New York Times because they're, essentially have been breaking their copyright. So there's a big wider discussion to be had about copyright and AI. And I was talking to someone the other day. I was actually talking to someone we both know, Sean Bass. And we were talking about ChatGPT, and I was saying, and we mentioned in our presentation we did last November about how as soon as you upload something or share something with ChatGPT, it is allowed to use that for its learning models, but there's actually a button there that says you can opt out. There is a downside to that, but as well as your content being you opting out, it no longer captures your history. So if you've had a chat and you want to go back and review that, it doesn't keep anything. So you have to kind of weigh it up. Now, most of the time when I use ChatGPT, I don't use anything that's, under NDA or privileged information. I use it for generating content of things that are currently known and that kind of thing. So I'm not really, but it was just an interesting point that he pointed out to me, that the fact that, oh, no, you can stop it from using your content for its learning models. But as I suppose, when they're building the models, that's a different scenario. And yeah, I think there will be pushback. And as you said, that Nightshade seems a really interesting use case and a way of protecting your copyright. So it'll be interesting to kind of see if that's implemented on a wider scale. Because, we already have huge levels of piracy. You can get most movies very quickly in that. So
you can get almost anything anywhere. Yeah,
exactly, almost anything anywhere. So is AI going to help enforce that? Make that easier, or is it gonna? It's gonna be that balancing thing, I think, that we'll see going forward. So, we've talked a little bit. So one of the things that happened quite recently was there was a great fanfare around this GPT store, which, if in case you haven't heard of this is OpenAI's version of an app store essentially, but everyone can build your own GPTs. But there is, and then you can share them, and potentially, if they're popular, you can monetize it. But I've had a look at this. It's going to need to be pretty popular for you to monetize it. You're not going to get like a couple of hundred people and then you're going to get monetized. It's thousands of people before you even And one of the things I was reading about was essentially these GPTs are quite open and very prone to be copied. So you could spend all this development time putting this together. Once you go into there's very little security on it. Now, obviously, it's their first generation, and like anything, it will take time to develop this. But it's just something to bear in mind if you do build a GPT and submit it to the GPT store. It's something you need to bear in mind. Have you had a look at the GPT store?
No, not really. I'm myself more focused at the moment at the Microsoft end of things. But I was wondering what kind of GPTs are there. I saw some in video, and I saw some Kayak for the travel agency. I saw some things. Are there any ones that you like?
I've only had a brief look, so there isn't any. I think there was one on so. My day job is product marketing. There was one focused on helping you generate content, and I've seen a few like that. So not really. I haven't delved deep. It's something I need to look at a bit more, but it's just, I suppose it gives you that you can talk to the likes of ChatGPT, and this brings the customization to the next level. And this is where we're going to go with it, is you will be able to customize it. And once they figure out the data thing, you can add your own data to it. You can ask it to do very specific tasks to you. So say in our world, you could create a GPT that goes and gathers all the news for end user computing on a daily basis, and produce, and then you can produce a newsletter off it or something like that. Now, one of the limitations I've found, and I suppose this will develop, and we'll get into a different discussion about how Copilot could do this, because essentially it can't push out in a newsletter format, which would be the next step. So it can give you the content, but then you have to take the content and do something with it. So it's one of those things that I suppose it's the first step with the whole process around creating your own kind of customized chat bots, essentially. And there is others around it. So it'll be interesting to see how that progresses as well.
Yeah, but
all of this is kind of early stage, so we're just looking at what's going to happen with it. It's all kind of watch here, follow closely and see where it goes, because that's what's going to happen. Oh God, Mr. Zuckerberg. So only a matter of time, wasn't it? So I see he has delved into the world of AGI. So there's various different stages of AI, Gerjon. So can you kind of, just so everyone knows, because people mightn't know that, we have various different levels of AI. Some of it, now, it's probably not too much of a shock, but it's been around for quite a while. But there's various different levels. So can you go through some of the levels of AI we currently have, and what the kind of, what they're aiming for? There's a term I've heard, AGI, but maybe you can explain a little bit more about what's going on.
Yeah, sure. Well, as you might know, that artificial intelligence has been around since the 1950s, and it all started a little bit around the Turing test. The Turing test was to see if a response that is done by a machine is more based on the machine, or that the one who's doing the questioning can detect if it's a human response or more a machine-like response. So that's something. So we've done it
exactly. That's why we have captchas.
Yeah,
Are
exactly.
you human? That's the Turing test.
That's the Turing test in effect. So if you look at the different stages of AI, and there are different things you can follow, or different things you can. There are different stadia. Some talk about 7 stadia, some talk about 5, some talk about 10. So if you look at this one, if you look at where we came from, we first had the rule-based AI, and that's a little bit of a lame term, because it's mostly if the thermostat is above 20 degrees, turn it off. It's below 20 degrees, turn the heating on. So more like that thing. The next thing we had was more the context-based systems. So the Siris, the Alexas that are based on your questioning, trying to fix stuff for you. What we're seeing now most are the narrow or domain expert systems. So the Watson that does the checks for tumors in MRI scans better than humans can do that. But those are AI systems that can do one thing, and they can do it very well, but they're just limited to one thing. And then there's some more like the reasoning systems that, like the Tesla, the auto drive, that say, well, based on what the information that I see, that I gather, I think this is the best course of action. So it reasons based on input from different, and it just
Not sure the Tesla auto drive is a good example. I've seen some videos, and I'm never turning that thing on if I had a Tesla, because it just tries to kill you as many times as possible. The decision making is not good on that. That is one thing where I can say from a technology AI standpoint, we have failed. Self-driving cars are an absolute disaster. No one has got even close to being convincing me that it's going to be even viable in the next 5 years, because anytime I see it, it's like, oh yeah, like car broke 3 red lights, nearly smashed into a car at the. It's just crazy. No, thank you. I'm very. I'm a skeptic when it comes to self-driving cars. I quite happily. Human error is, obviously not great, but I think death rate would actually go through the roof if we enable self-driving cars currently.
Yeah, well, it's based on the information in the system, and the way the information is ingested. I can imagine if you have a system that's not vehicle based but road based, where all the vehicles get the same information, that might make it a little more. Make it a little bit more accident prone. But if you look, I have a Tesla myself, and I use the self-drive occasionally, but it does a little bit, it keeps you on your toes. It's not always a relaxing drive.
It keeps you on your toes.
But that's one of the things that makes driving fun. But if you look at, so we were talking about, but what is artificial general intelligence? All the things that we talked about are levels below artificial intelligence, general intelligence. If you look at what is then the general intelligence, that is an artificial intelligence organism or machine that is just as smart as us, that is smart enough to do things on different tasks on different levels. So, and it can perhaps make coffee and have a decent conversation and get a cookie, or in some way or form, or think about 2 or 3 things at the same time. So that's artificial general intelligence, and that's something that for now seems for a lot of companies the holy grail. So Mark Zuckerberg is joining the race. There are other companies that also want to do that, and once they achieve that, and I think Elon Musk said we will have artificial general intelligence in 2 years. I thought that was a bit optimistic, but Elon is known for his optimism, as you can say. But that's something that will get there, and it then depends on your definition of what is artificial general intelligence when we get there. But it's a really cool thing to see that in development, and to see that every big company wants to have a piece of that pie, so it will go fast. And if you look into the future, then the things that they will say is, well, okay, after artificial general intelligence, you will have super artificial general intelligence. Well, you can imagine what that may look like. That's artificial intelligence that's smarter than us in every way, form. And then you get these things like mind over matter, cosmic AI. So those are all things that are way in the future, where we can ask robots to terraform a new planet for us, and they call us, say, okay, well, planet is done. We've made your bed. Come on here. So that's something that's way in the future. But in the next coming years, it will be about artificial general intelligence, and when are machines smart enough to make the same decisions we make based on the same input we have. And that's going to be a nice rat race to watch.
Right. Yeah. All of this we're kind of viewing with anticipation, and I have two emotions when it comes to AI. I'm really excited by it, and it scares the living daylights out of me as well. So, and I'm somewhere in between at most stages, because I did a presentation last year on AI, and my first slide was the T1000 and Skynet. So. Yeah. We don't want this to go to the bad side, but there is the potential, and I suppose but at the same time, there's this whole thing where it can be so beneficial and so helpful, and it's very much at the stage where it is definitely an aid. It can't do more than a human. Well, it can in certain things, but there's still there's a lot of nuances it doesn't understand yet, and you can see that. Like I've tried to use it for content, and I've had to delete half of it, and it is very the way it speaks is very clear. One of my colleagues today, she put out a LinkedIn post, and she said the word of the day for ChatGPT seems to be unleashing, because she'd seen a bunch of LinkedIn posts with the term unleashing in it. So you have to be careful. You have to go and edit and review whatever you generate. But it is really helpful. I use it all the time. I use ChatGPT all the time. I have it on my phone as well. I haven't done the voice bit yet. I don't want them not into that yet. So I'm happy enough typing, but voice will obviously make it easier and more natural. And, you get to the stage where it can talk to you as well. We've got that whole kind of Iron Man scenario where he wakes up Jarvis, and he's got his 3 screens, and they're translucent, and you can just see all the information, and he can interact with it with his hands and all that. So that's the cool bit. Obviously, there's the not so cool bit. We've got 2 topics today which we wanted to talk to in a bit more detail. Giving you a brief overview of the news. Obviously, we haven't captured everything. We never will, because there is just so much going on. But in our world and the world in general, obviously, accessibility is what this is getting more and more people into AI. And the biggest news from my point of view is Microsoft have just made Copilot nearly available to anyone. So there's a couple of ways they've done that. So prior to this, Copilot was available, but you had to essentially have an E3 or an E5 Microsoft license and have a minimum of 300 users. So that applied to most. And buy it for a year. Sorry?
And you had to buy it for a year.
And you buy it for a year, yes. They've now dropped the 300 user component, so that means it's open to small and medium business. But at the same time, they have opened it up to essentially anyone, because they have brought in Copilot Pro, which is available for $20 a month. And you can use it with your home office subscription and install it today and get up and running, and away you go. So this, obviously, Microsoft wants more and more people. That's what Microsoft do. They just take over things, and it is a real game changer at the same time. We as a company haven't purchased it. I'm considering Pro for myself at home, because $20 a month is not a huge amount of money, and I'd really like to see what it can do. So maybe, I don't know if there's I need to check into further if you essentially have to can you just get a 1 month subscription, or if you're tied in. So yeah,
as far as I know, yeah, I've got it.
You've got it, yeah. So let's talk about that. You already have Copilot for Office. You've been using it for a while. So what are kind of some of the best things you found and some of the gaps you're still seeing?
Yeah, well, I've using it for about a week, so I've using it after it released. I had to go through the proper channels to get it authorized, but looking at it now for a week is one of the things that I find a little that might be a little bit of an issue is because I'm from the Netherlands, we talk Dutch, and the Copilot does not, it narrates Dutch, but it's not native Dutch. So that might make some of the things that you want to do in a language that isn't supported naturally a little bit more complex. And that might give you some of the and for me, because I'm in IT, I dream in English sometimes at night just because I read English all day. Then it's not that big of a deal, but if you want to do this to your end users, it makes it a little bit complex that they might be doing it in English, at least for the Netherlands, the Germans, the French. There are some languages that are supported. There's a list, I think about 11 languages now, but it's not all of them. So there's a lot of to be won there. Another thing that I found is I did a presentation at the user group, Azure user group in Norway this morning, where I thought, okay, let me be cool and let me ask Copilot, give me a few, give me a presentation about the history of the Azure user group in Norway, and they give me 5 slides. And I said to them, well, I asked Copilot, how did you guys get started, and where are you coming from, and what you're doing? So we created a nice 5-slide presentation, where on the first slide it said it was founded in 2010, and everyone in the meeting was looking at each other going, I don't know if that's correct. so so the information that it got came from the web, obviously, but the overall vibe of the presentation did cohort with how the Norwegian Azure user group is functioning, what their goals are, but it's not always a fact that it's true. So the issue with Chatgpt is the issue with Copilot and the issue with everything AI. Fact check. If you want to want to look bad, fact check just to be sure.
So it still suffers from the same hallucinations that ChatGPT has, because essentially it's using the OpenAI platform, but in a Microsoft version, if you think about it. So again, what we've said previously is fact check. Don't take what is written in gospel as what comes from ChatGPT and or any LLM. I've seen this. Yes, go on.
What it does do is, I said create 5 slides, and it created 5 slides, one with an animation in it, one with a real cool image with the correct fonts, and so the layout and the marketing, I was like, nice. This has done a better job than me. I'm not in DTP or marketing. You are, not me. So it created better slides than I could have done myself in just 1 minute.
Yeah, I think the time savings are where it, and this is what I can see real benefit, where is if I can just, if I have a 10-slide deck that I want to create, I can just tell it what I want, and I can use, I can probably tell it to use whatever template I want if I've got a standard one, because most organizations would have some sort of corporate standard, and you're limited in what you can do. But yeah, for me, it's definitely all about the time saving and the fact that it's it's embedded in the suite that the majority of us who work use on a daily basis. It gives that further stickiness to you're never going to look at alternatives when Office has all of these components. Is it embedded in is it in Teams?
Yeah. There's a chatbot in Teams that you can ask to do things, and it's embedded in every Office program. So Word, Excel, there's a button, and it says create an Excel page with this about that and that, with the colors blue and the headers. Enter, and it will create a slide with the content you want. Or can you create a graph based on information in tab 2, put it in tab 4. in sheet 5, make it a line-based graph. It will do that.
Cool. And in Teams, does it kind of like does it interact with meetings that you can get like summaries of meetings and that kind of thing? So, you could ask it, what were the 5, main points of this meeting if you just happen to get distracted because, say, the meeting was like over an hour and you like switched off for 10 minutes. And then does it give you those kind of...
No, I think those are part of Teams Premium. So that's a different license where you can have Teams just write out the Teams meeting and give automatically your to-dos in your to-do. That's the Teams Premium. I think that's a separate license. But what it will do, and that helps me a lot, saying, okay, I've been in the weekend, I haven't been at the office, of course, and some of my colleagues have been chatting around in different chat groups about issues at customers or something cool that they found or whatever. You can say, give me the heads up of the chats from the last 2 days, and it will give you a summary of saying, okay, these are the people that had chats, and this is the main thing that was the end of the discussion, or this is what they found out. So
that's good. Yeah, because sometimes like you have to read through, several pages of comments and like, okay, just give me the summary of that. I don't need all of the detail. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, great. Move on. So so it's all about time saving essentially and working more efficiently.
Yeah, and the tip I would have for everyone that's wanting to try it is, please do, but do it in a little bit confined, because people can query information that they might not have access to, or they have access to but they don't know that, so they might query the bot to give them information that they are not legally obliged to have. For playing for the IT people, just to get a grasp of, okay, how can this save time, and to help people find out how. Just play with it yourself, and then you can learn, okay, how could this save time, and then take this to your company. And the main thing that I see as a problem for the future with everything Copilot or any of the chatbots related is the prompt engineering. We have to educate everyone that the quality of the question defines, together with information, the output. So if the question sucks, the output will suck.
Yeah, but is that not similar to like when we first started with search engines? If you put in, garbage in, garbage out. So it's just taking that kind of same concept of putting in proper search terms, and the same with prompts. But yeah, you're right. We do need to educate people about proper prompt engineering, and that does, like, I've seen some prompts are like, there's several paragraphs, but the level of detail it gets, like especially with DALL-E 3, if you say this kind of image with this light, if you actually know what you're talking about, the professional nature of the images is just off the charts. So yeah, it is very much, there is an education process to get people to prompt correctly so they get the most out of it. And it's something I've mentioned to people before as well. Like, if you put in a bad prompt, you're probably going to get a bad outcome. So you need to think about this really carefully. And, there are lots of resources where you can learn about prompt engineering. I think there's quite a few free ones on YouTube, there's a whole on LinkedIn Learning. There's lots of them as well. So it is worthwhile just taking, say, an hour and learning a bit more about prompt engineering, because it will be a huge part of what's going on.
Exactly.
And it will help you get better information out of any kind of AI model.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that I learned mostly about Copilot is it saves you. It can save you a lot of time if you know how to correctly use it, and if you have your infrastructure and your data in order, so it can get to the data it needs to get to, and it can get to the information you want and need, and so there's a whole ecosystem of stuff that has to be put in place before you can really get the benefits. And that's something that we'll be doing for the next years, is making everything available for Copilot or all the AI stuff. Also the same, of course, for OpenAI, the GPT variant they have.
Yeah.
The information needs to be available, needs to be searchable for them in a secure way to get them to give
Sure.
you the correct answer to your question.
Yeah, I've just remembered there is actually an official OpenAI prompt engineering guide, and we'll share it in a link to it in the show notes.
Nice.
So you'll be able to get access to that. I just remembered I saw that, and that's obviously one to use as well. So we've talked a bit about Copilot. So one of the other things that's been going on is the CES show took place in Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago. And we've now got some AI hardware devices, which I was a little bit taken aback by. I was like,
Yeah.
why? What? Okay. So one of the ones that I've seen is this Rabbit R1. So it seems to be about the size of an iPad. No, not an iPad, iPod. So in case anyone's too young, an iPod before Spotify, we had what were called iPods, and you stored songs on them and you played them. So they were probably about this size. So it's supposed to be about the size of an iPod, which is quite a small form factor. And I was thinking about it, and I was kind of going, why would you have a hardware device over an app, on my phone? Because we're all about software, hardware. But then it's not just. So one of the things I found is it has its. You can put in prompts. It can use voice. But it actually can do actions. So as opposed to Chatgpt, where I tell it, say, take an example with travel. I want to go to Paris for the weekend, look at flights, hotels. So that's fine. I then have to go take that information, go to something like, booking.com or whatever, and key in all that information. And whereas this seems to have some sort of link with vendors, and such as, say, booking.com, and it will push the request through. I was like, oh, okay. So that I kind of, in some ways I can see it, but in others I'm like, eh. But it's under $200, so it seems kind of like, and we just had a look before we started the show. It's selling like crazy at the moment. It's not even out till March. These are all pre-orders, so hopefully they have enough manufacturing capacity to actually get the amount of orders out that they need. But it is going well. So it does seem that there is a place for these AI hardware devices, but I'm still a little bit skeptical. What's your view on it?
Yeah, same like you. Why should it be separate hardware? The only thing I can imagine is it might be quicker because the hardware is specialized for the tasks it needs to do. So there might be a better GPU than in a phone, for some reason, or better battery life. But it's an extra device you have to carry around. And I have a phone that does all my stuff, and I don't really care if I should wait a minute extra for a result on a query or a result on a booking or something. That's not something. I'm not sitting there thinking, taking long. I'm just giving the information, putting my phone away, looking, it got the answer.
Yeah.
So the only thing I can imagine is just being completely in control over the hardware, the stuff you put in it, the licensing, and not being bound by things like the App Store manifest or the Google Play Store things, where you can't do, or you can't reach some parts of the system because they're locked behind the APIs and they're not reachable for applications. So that might be one of the reasons, but I'm not feeling like I need to be Lucky Luke, where I have to have two devices.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, I've essentially two devices with me. I have a phone, and then I have my smartwatch. And this is just a fitness tracker. It's not like an iWatch or anything like that. But at the same time, I can get all my messages, my emails on it, everything. So, if I had another app, or there's some sort of AI integration on my watch, then potentially that would be of interest to me. But as you said, I don't have enough room in my pockets to carry anything else around with me. And, if it's just So I'm curious. I think it's getting a little bit hyped. Is my initial opinion on it because of the fact that I have a phone now. Apparently, it can do video calls and it can do messaging. So maybe you can replace certain aspects of your phone, but and it is it's a Gen 1 device, so maybe it will eventually replace phones and that kind of thing. But um, yeah, not feeling it. And speaking of that, there's another one coming as well called the Humane Pin. Don't know if you've seen this one, but it's like you can put it on you and it has a camera and
So tricky.
you can. Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, it looks like a Star Trek, type thing.
Transformer. Yeah.
It does projections onto your hand, but it has no interface. Whereas the R1 has like a scroll wheel and a touch screen and all that. So I'm not sure how you interact with it, to be honest. It's a lot more expensive. It's like over $700. So, but again, I'm really not seeing the use case for this, for either of these devices personally at the moment. And maybe, when we post this, people can post their comments and let us know what
Yes.
their views are on these devices. And maybe there's something I'm missing, or it's a generational thing that, because, we're both in our 40s. So, maybe I'm missing something, but I would like to get people's views on it and we can discuss it again. But from my point of view, it's like, I don't want another device. So if you can put it into the format which I'm used to, as I said, I have the ChatGPT app on my phone already. I don't need a separate device. But as I
Yeah.
said, I will. Oh, one of the other ones we didn't mention earlier is Windows laptops are getting an AI button.
Yeah.
So that's going to be, so you can see already that the Windows OS is going to have interaction with AI, and AI will be a major part of the OS going forward. So again, Microsoft's pushing forward with that whole AI approach. What's your view of a AI button on a Windows laptop?
Yeah, I want to circle back just one brief second about all this hardware because the
Yeah,
Rabbit R1 is $200. You said the Humane one was $700. Imagine you have in your brochure that costs $700 and your phone costs $800. You're feeling like you're moving money
yeah,
back. There's a lot of expensive hardware on your body because you also have a wristwatch that costs $300-$400. And
yeah,
then the
yeah.
phone, and there's a lot of stuff, AirPods or whatever. So you're walking
Mm,
around with 2,000 euros on devices on you, where this one
mm.
can easily get ticked off or you can lose it
Or
very quickly.
stolen.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm really wondering what the use case might be, and if you're circling back to the Microsoft stuff where they just put a button on the device, and if you hit that button, Copilot starts.
Mm.
Uh, I'm curious to see what the integration is like. For example,
Yeah.
we had in Windows, we had the cool thing called Cortana for a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that didn't work very well.
No, it was awful.
So they looked at how Apple did it, and then they did it in a less
Yeah.
professional way. So I
Yeah.
was wondering what this button is going to do, because if you push it and it will open a system-wide Copilot and you can ask it stuff. Can you talk to it? What are the limitations? Will it integrate, because it's integrated in OS? Will it integrate with the applications inside the OS, and will it integrate with, for example, of Office 365? If you have also that Copilot, so you can tick on it and it
Yeah.
will integrate the Copilots that are already on your system. So I'm really excited to see how far this will go, or if it's just the equivalent of the Bing chat, where you can search the web, but then embedded in the OS. But it's really cool to see that Microsoft is really invested in the whole AI revelation and all it's going to take, and the road it's going to take us. So Microsoft is all in on this. So even if they get their hardware running, or their hardware prepped for this, maybe they will run it on the system internally. That they will run a local large language model based on stuff in the OS. That would be cool.
Yeah.
You have your own edge bot that you can take with you and use it even if you don't have internet.
Yeah, now that would be cool. That's different. I don't think it's that, but that would be amazing, and that would really take it to the next level if like you bought like a Surface Book or something like that, and there was now they potentially are working on that, but I think it's at an OS level, but like as you and it connects to the cloud version of that, but. Yeah, if it was able to run a local LLM, that would be amazing.
Yeah, that would make the world a lot. But yeah, it's nice to dream, and that's the fun part of doing a podcast like this. We can have our opinion and things, and think about how the future might help us and bring us cool stuff. So this is something I'm really eager to learn. So I'm really cool to see the different hardware things that can do AI. We have standard things that can do AI, but the specialized hardware and how that might help us do things more efficient, more fun, and less mundane, so we can have more time for the cool stuff.
Yeah.
So, and with that said, I think we've come to the end of our first podcast, James.
Woo! Wow.
We made it.
That was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys made it to the end. It's the first one. These things will get better. We will, as I said, our plan for the future is to have guests, have more discussion points. But if there's anything you want us to talk about, drop it in the comments. Let us know your thoughts. We have a Twitter handle, don't we?
Yeah, it's at impact_AI, where you can reach us. And we have an email address, podcast@impactof.ai. So we'll also put all that information in the show notes. If you want to be a guest, or as James said, if you want to contribute in any way, shape or form, please let us know. We're open to everything and anything. So we're just eager to know what the world is thinking about AI and how we can use it. And we would love to discuss everything.
Yep, that's it. Thanks very much. Thanks everyone for listening, and we hope you enjoyed the episode, and hopefully see you on the next one. Thanks.
Yes, see you next time. Bye-bye.
Take care.